I've worked as an emergency nurse for over 30 years. I'm now left disabled by long COVID because, you know, while we were busy on the front line, putting our lives on the line, and by the way, I lost 3 friends who
sorry
died
to hear that. Very
trying
sorry to
to
hear
save
that.
people. But your government was busy doling out PPE contracts to all their mates, most of whom didn't produce a single piece of PPE, some of whom PPE that was produced is now costing us millions to burn. You have deliberately set about to defund and destroy the NHS from the moment you took office in government.
Well, Karen, let me first...
Prior to you taking government, working in A&E, we hit the 4-hour deadlines. We had the lowest waiting lists in history. We had the highest patient satisfaction, and then you guys came in and dismantled it and saw an opportunity for each and every one of you, for you to make money out of it and for you to get your friends richer out of it, off the back of the people who are working on almost minimum wage. We've got doctors on £14 an hour, nurses that were starting on £12, £13 an hour. And for what?
Karen, let me thank you. I've heard you loud and clear. Thanks for sharing those views. First of all, let me say that I want to thank you for your service, and I'm sorry to hear about your 3 friends during the pandemic. But you know, when it comes to the NHS, I'm not sure if you heard everything I said earlier, but spending on the NHS, even long before the pandemic, is at the highest levels ever in real terms, in cash terms, no matter how you want to measure it. We spend more than most other comparable countries on healthcare in this country. Yet I think most people would agree we're not getting the kind of outcomes that we'd want to see. And you mentioned the issue about PPE, and I get that what you're saying, but I can't agree with everything you've said about that, because I think you have to think back to the start of this pandemic when PPE was absolutely necessary. Every country in the world had a shortage of PPE, and I think people would have expected their government at the time to do everything they can to get their hands on it. And you're right, they may well have brought too much, and you may well have to destroy that now, but I'd rather have a government that's buying too much than having too little.
I don't think you're listening to me, Sajid. The stuff that you were providing was plastic, useless rubbish, gloves that you would put your hands through, aprons that were the thinnest I've ever seen. The PPE was shocking. It was not fit for purpose for most of the time, and it left us open to vulnerabilities. It's left me disabled, basically housebound now. I've gone from being a busy, working 12-hour shifts in A&E, being out on my bike, going out kayaking, out with my kids, to someone who's now left in my home because your government failed to prepare me, to protect me. And also, you are also refusing to recognise it as an industrial illness, which it is, because I wouldn't have got this if I hadn't have been facing COVID every single day.